Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Me llamo Aaron y en este video voy a hablar sobre mi experiencia con Dreaming Spanish. However, in this video, I will not be speaking Spanish. I'm not gonna lie, most people that have been using only Dreaming Spanish can't do what I just did. However, I have been learning Spanish now, probably since seventh grade. Yeah, because in seventh grade in school, I had to take Spanish in seventh, eighth, ninth, 11th, yeah, up to 11th. I think maybe even in 12th. I can't really remember, to be honest with you. I know I 100% took it in 11th grade. My point is, I pretty much took Spanish all throughout high school and also middle school because I always wanted to learn, but I felt like I never could. You know, I've tried many things. I got Magic Key to Spanish right over here. I'm gonna grab it real quick. So I've got Magic Key to Spanish right here. Great book. Never actually finished reading it though. I'm the kind of guy who just finished reading everything. Then I bought this Short Stories in Spanish Intermediate Edition. I thought I was ready for this. I was not. Give you a real quick recap on everything I did before I discovered Dreaming Spanish. By the way, for reference, you know I'm at 50 hours in Dreaming Spanish, okay? And I'm gonna get into that in a minute, but I just wanna give you some background. Also, by no means is this gonna become a Spanish channel, but I do wanna just document this journey with Dreaming Spanish. It probably only gonna maybe have 10 episodes, something like that. I still am gonna keep the finance and business content, just so you guys know. But as far as the background, so I took it throughout school, and additionally, I also took Spanish kind of like on my own. Even when I was in high school, I tried to like learn more, but it just never felt like it was clicking. The whole thing of just studying grammar never really felt helpful. And then I discovered Baselang. Well, then obviously, there's like Duolingo, Babbel. The only thing I learned from Duolingo is Yo soy un gato. That means I'm a cat. So my point is, Duolingo is pretty crap. So I didn't learn anything from Duolingo. I did Babbel. Babbel was better. I learned some things that were more applicable in life, like for example, like me duele todo, like my whole body hurts. I learned things like that, but even still, nothing really stuck with me. And then of course, I always learn things, and then I even stumbled across Magic Key Spanish, which, like I said earlier, I never finished reading, and by far this was the best version I've ever read. Like what I'm saying is, you're way better off reading this book than you are using the app, because from only the 10 chapters I read, I learned so much. And the only reason why I stopped is because I started using Baselang, which is basically this app where, well, this is a website where basically for a small fee every month, you can basically you have unlimited access to tutors. And then from there, they also have a curriculum. So basically how it works is, if you ever struggle with a lesson, you can book a call with a tutor, and it's very affordable. And I was doing that, and things were going really great. And honestly, Baselang is the reason why I was able to do the introduction, because from forcing myself to always talk, even though I was talking to people that were way on my level, it still did work really well. But I kind of reached a point in my Baselang where I felt like, I'm like, okay, this thing says I'm intermediate, but me by no means am intermediate. And I feel like, also it was starting to feel like a chore, because every day I was doing Baselang for 3 hours a day, and I am going to come back to it probably in the future. But I'm like, I just need something really easy that can help me learn Spanish that isn't difficult. Because the reality is, the number one reason why people fail is because they quit. And the number one reason why people fail is because things are too hard. So I thought, I was like, okay, what's something I can do to make failure impossible? And then I started looking at this. I seen this thing on YouTube, because I never heard of Dreaming Spanish until, let me see. Maybe I can tell you when I first seen it. I'm not sure where that is right now. Oh yeah, here we go. So on November 18th was when I first ever heard of it, and then I checked it out immediately. And there's this guy named Pablo, and what he says is you can learn Spanish just by watching videos. I was like, bro, what? And then basically when I read how the Dreaming Spanish method and it was explained, they basically said, well, how did you learn your native language? Very simple. You were just around it 24/7. And then as a result, you just all you got was comprehensive input. That's what it's called. And you then learn the language just by people being around you. Like most of the words we learn in life, we're not like this, like bat, and they're putting on like a bat, like a baseball bat, like bat, baseball bat, baseball bat. You didn't learn words like that, or like you didn't learn how to conjugate, I don't know, there, and there. Actually, maybe you did, but you get my point. My point is, for every single thing in English, they did not hold your hand and teach you how to do everything, right? But now, for some reason, though, in school, we learn languages the same way. We learn vocab, we learn grammar, we have tests on it, and it just causes people to hate learning languages when it actually shouldn't be. It should be really fun, which is exactly what it is. So that's why I went to Baseline. I mean, that's why I went to Dreaming Spanish, because I'm not gonna lie, I love Baseline, but I was trying to get burnt out. Like, I never wanted to take calls because it felt like a chore. Trying to find a good tutor feels like damn near impossible. What I mean by that is they all have different styles. Like, certain kind of personalities are gonna mesh better with others. You know, I met some guys that are like dictators, like they're like military authoritarians, and you have other people that are like super chill. You have some people that just like to sing songs. Literally, I had a guy that just wants to sing songs together, and you learn the language like that. So I'm saying is there's many different methods on it, and I kind of just wanted something that was super simple. I didn't think about. I'm not gonna lie, I probably am gonna come back to Baseline in the future once I get like around 500 hours. Now, to go a little bit into the method. Now, there's technically a mistake. What Pablo says is, like, that's a creator of German Spanish. He says you should not be speaking at all, basically. You shouldn't even start to think about speaking until you reach 600 hours. That's when you should start speaking. And basically the reason for that is because if you start speaking too early, you won't develop your accent. Now, this is something that in the language community that's so debated. Some people say you should start speaking from day one. Some people say you should wait until, you have like 600 hours like Pablo. It's very involved. Now, I'm just gonna talk about German Spanish now. So obviously I discovered it. And ever since I discovered it, I've been watching more and more and more. And that is just because I want a fun way to learn Spanish. So basically right here, I currently have I think I have 52 hours, and I just became a beginner. Before I was a super beginner. So according to this, I now know 300 words that maybe I can't like just recall them from the top of my head, but if I hear them in context, I'll know what they mean. And I don't know if it's that high, but it's hard because it might be higher because I also do other things. Like, for example, I've been using the Anki deck every day just so I can start to expose myself around this vocabulary more and more, because I feel the Anki deck and hearing the words in context has been extremely helpful, because the goal is to learn the language as effectively as possible, and also at the same time while being fast. Now, basically, to go back to German Spanish, I said the reason why I started using this is because I've seen hundreds of videos on YouTube of people like me and you recording stuff that talk about how I became fluent, or at least conversational, with Dreaming Spanish. They said, like, once they get to like the 1,600 hours, like 1,500 hours around there, they're speaking and they can communicate with almost any native speaker just by listening. And I would say it's definitely working. It is 100% working. I literally have not used Baseline in the past, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. And my comprehension has been absolutely blowing up. And what I want to do is, I don't plan on only leaning on Dreaming Spanish. I don't know. I might, it depends on how I feel, but I'll see about once I get to like intermediate, once I get to probably like 100 hours, I want to start going back to the Baseline calls, see how they go. Or at least till intermediate, like 300 hours. I'm not sure. I'm figuring this out as I go. I might just go all in Dreaming Spanish. But my point is, if you don't want to do anything else, I would say you can 100% learn the language just by using Dreaming Spanish. I've only done 50 hours, and I that's what I mean. I'm hitting the phones hard. I mean, hitting the videos hard, and I started doing that. I was doing like 30 minutes a day, not even. And then since then, I've now hit at least an hour every day. And I actually scaled it up because I felt like I could do more. And I'm now doing 2 hours a day. What was it? On Friday, I did 4 hours in a day because, I was just chilling. I wasn't feeling too good. So, I was like just sitting on the couch. I'm like, instead of watching TV, you might as well just learn the language. And that's literally all I was doing. And also, I started listening to podcasts. There's a great podcast called Cuéntame. You can listen to that while you're in the car. It's good because I was like, okay, as soon as my goal was to get to a level where I can listen to podcasts as soon as possible. Because the problem is, you spend so much time in the car, but when you're in the car, you can't really listen to Dreaming Spanish at the super beginner level because you need the visuals. But there's this podcast called Cuéntame on Spotify by this lady, I believe her name is Maria. And in there, basically, it's very comprehensible because it's meant for beginners. So what she'll do is she'll basically talk in Spanish, but for certain words, for example, I don't know, like ayudar. So she'll say a sentence, say ayudar, and then she'll say to help. And then she does it very slowly. And then she'll then have a second one, and then she'll do it full pace. So she'll have a very slow thing where she's telling you what the words mean, and then after that she has everything in one go. And it's so helpful because you can hear the slow version and then everything all at once. And I think I've already spent 7 hours. Yeah, I've already spent 7 hours just on Fuenteme alone, listening to her podcast. And I'm telling you, they are such a huge, number one, they're a huge game changer. And not to mention, it allows you to get so much more input because when I'm in the car for 30 minutes, I just got 30 minutes of Spanish. When on my way back, 30 minutes of Spanish. I'm in the car at least probably for 2 hours a day. So every day I'm able to get, 2 hours, an hour and 30 minutes. When you're at the gym, if you really want to. I don't like it at the gym because it's hard to focus. My point is there's so many places you can go to get input in and out. So with that being said, I've talked about how great Dreaming Spanish is. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? I love it. I really do. The problem is the super beginner videos, I cannot wait to get out of it because once they got to like hour 40, I'm like, bro, I literally started watching the beginner videos because these videos just become so boring. Because, for example, Pablo or, some other person in Dreaming Spanish will be on a whiteboard drawing something, talking like this. And you're like, dude, you're doing this every day for 40 hours. So it just starts to get old. And the thing is, too, eventually you watch all the funny videos. Like, I watch all the funny videos in Dreaming Spanish super beginner. So then I had nothing else that was funny to watch. So everything else I was watching was like, it was interesting, I guess, but it was also kind of boring. Now, I'm not going to lie. Like, once you get to beginner, it becomes way better. There's way more content because you have more hours. But for example, like I can watch stuff on here that I would actually watch in real life. It's still not at that point. Intermediate is when I notice when it really starts to pick up. But either way, like for example, my favorite series is just them tasting snacks. It's so enjoyable. It's like a normal YouTube video. They're just eating snacks from around the world because they have one person from Mexico, another person from España, Argentina, like Colombia, and Japan. So they're trying snacks from all these different countries. And it's very, very interesting. And you're actually getting input in that isn't boring as hell. So I would say once I got to beginner, it definitely started to get more interesting. I'm not going to lie. It still is boring, but I'm going to toughen through it. I'm going to just toughen through it at least until I get to intermediate because my real goal is once I get to intermediate, I'll then be able to start watching like anime. I don't watch anime anymore, but if it means I can get input that isn't boring, I'm 100% going to start watching anime. So without that being said, what's the goal now? The goal now is just going to be to watch 2 hours a day, Dreaming Spanish every day. Some days do 3 hours because I actually did the math. It's insane. I believe if you do 4 hours a day, you can get 1,600 hours by the end of the year. And my goal is I'm going to to go to Puerto Rico probably next summer around that time. Yeah, probably either like summer or like December, sometime around there. Still got to figure everything out, but it's going to be about a year. So with that being said, I want to be able to go to Puerto Rico, be able to communicate with the locals, order stuff, in Espanol, and not have to appear as if I'm just some English speaker that doesn't give a damn about their culture. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you probably when I get 150 hours. Cheers. Ciao, ciao.